Hello boys and girls, how did you get on making your clocks yesterday? Have you got your clock ready for today's Telling the Time challenge? First of all though, I want you to look at my clock and so that we know where the hands go. So as a reminder, on your clock you should have made a long minute hand and a short hour hand. Now the minute hand, if you remember, look at those little blue lines, measures the minutes. So the minute hand goes all the way round the clock and it takes it 60 minutes to go all the way round the clock. And there's the 60 at the top measuring the minutes. So 60 minutes measures an hour. So the long minute hand has to go all the way round to make an hour. But the short hour hand doesn't go all the way around the clock in an hour. Let's watch what happens. So I'm going to let my minute hand go round 1 hour. So it's going to go all the way around the clock again. Watch what the hour hand does. So it's pointing to the 3 at the moment. Keep watching it as I move my minute hand round. So it's starting to move. So it's moving much more slowly than my minute hand. Keep watching. Hope my hand's not in the way. So my minute hand has gone all the way round. It's been round to measure an hour of time. Now my hour hand, my shorter hand, was pointing to the 3 when I started. But now it's moved from the 3 to the 4. So it's showing that an hour of time has gone and it's 1 hour later. So it was 3 o'clock, but now it's 4 o'clock. Now, when it's an o'clock time, the minute hand needs to be pointing to the 12 like it is now. And then the number of hours o'clock it is where we look at the hour hand. So we see where the hour hand is pointing to. So that's the number of hours. So that's 4 o'clock. Because that's what the minute hand is pointing to. So we're going to have a practice at putting the hands in the right place to tell the time. So if you remember in our story of the bad-tempered ladybird who kept meeting different animals every hour, let's see if we can use the story to help us put our hands on the clock in the right place. Now at the start of the story, the bad-tempered ladybird was meeting some aphids, wasn't it, at 5 o'clock. So if we're going to make 5 o'clock, we need the minute hand, the longer hand, to be pointing to the 12. And now that said 4 o'clock, doesn't it? So our hour hand needs to be pointing to the 5. So I'm going to move my minute hand all the way around. So it's saying o'clock because it's pointing to the 12. So it's something o'clock and I needed it to be 5 o'clock. And it is 5 o'clock now, isn't it? Because my hour hand is pointing to the 5. So it's 5 o'clock. So let's have another look. Let's see what happened next in the story. So there's the story at 6 o'clock. And you've got some little clocks at the top of each page in the book. I know you can't see them, but if you've got it at home, you can have a little peep. At 6 o'clock, the bad-tempered ladybird met a wasp. So that was an hour later. So to make it an hour later, we'll still need it to say o'clock because it was 6 o'clock. So the minute hand still needs to point to the 12, but we need to move the hour hand, don't we? Because it's 6 o'clock and our clock is saying 5 o'clock. So on my special clock, I can move my minute hand all the way round to add on an hour. And that's made my hour hand move from the 5 to the 6. So are you getting the idea now of how to make the time on your clock? Let's see. Let's look at the next one. So the next hour, an hour later, the bad-tempered ladybird met a stag beetle. So that was not 6 o'clock, it was 7 o'clock, wasn't it? So can you guess where the hands are going to go on the clock? So o'clock, the minute hand has to point to the 12, the longer minute hand, and it's not going to, the hour hand's not going to be pointing to the 6, is it? It's going to be pointing to the 7, isn't it? So let's move my minute hand all the way around. So it's gone an hour later, and now my hour hand is pointing to the 7 to make 7 o'clock. Now you might want to have a go with your clock now. So let's have a look at the next time. Who did the Bad-Tempered Ladybird meet next? Ooh, the Bad-Tempered Ladybird met a praying mantis. And that was an hour later. So an hour later after 7 o'clock is 8 o'clock. So we don't need to move the minute hand, do we? Because when the minute hand points to the 12, it's an o'clock time, isn't it? So if you haven't got your minute hand pointing to the 12, you can have a go at putting it there now. If you've got it stuck on with some blue tack, let's see if you can make it point to the 12. And then the hour hand, I've got to move my minute hand because my hour hand is still pointing to the 7. But to make it 8 o'clock, I'm going to move my minute hand. So it's still pointing to the 12 like yours would be. But if you've got yours stuck down differently, you can just pick up your hour hand and point it to the 8. Make sure it's pointing to the 8 to make 8 o'clock. Okay, here's your challenge. The next animal that the Bad-Tempered Ladybird met was the sparrow. And the Bad-Tempered Ladybird met the sparrow at 9 o'clock. So where are the hands going to go? Can you put your hands on your clock in the right place for 9 o'clock? Have a go. Can you do that? Where does the minute hand go? That's right, it goes to the 12, doesn't it, to make o'clock? But the hour hand isn't going to point to the 8. Where's the hour hand going to point? It's going to point to the 9, isn't it? Well done. If I'm going to move mine round really quickly to make 9 o'clock. Now, what I want you to do is practice making different o'clock times on your clock at home. Now, yesterday you'll have talked to your grown-up about times that you don't do different activities in the day. So talk to your grown-up again and remind yourselves about what time you do different things. And can you make the time on the clock just using o'clock? So what time do you come to school? What time do you eat your dinner? What time do you eat your tea or go to bed? Can you make those times on your clock using your minute hand and your hour hand? So that's your first job, and I've put some time challenges on your activity today. And I also want you to see if you can read the times on the clock. So that means if I said to you, what time is it? You could look at my clock and you could tell me what time it was. So there are some little clock pictures that I want you to look at. Let's just have a quick practice. So I'm going to turn it round this time and I'm going to make a time. Let's see. Okay, now I'm going to ask you, what time is it? So what time is it? It's, let's look at the hour hand, it's 2 o'clock, isn't it? Because the minute hand's pointing to the 12. Well done if you said that. Let's try another one. What time is it? What time is it now? Look at the hour hand, that's the clue. 6 o'clock, isn't it? Because the minute hand is pointing to the 12 and it's always o'clock when the minute hand points to the 12. Okay, one more. Oh. Now then, What about that one? That's a challenge. What's that one? Can you see both hands? They're both pointing to the 12, aren't they? So this time the hour hand tells us the number o'clock, so it's 12 o'clock. And I know that at school, when it's 12 o'clock, that's the time we go and wash our hands and get ready to have our dinner in the hall. So have fun telling the times today. See if you can get those hands in the right place on your clock. Make some different times for the different activities you do in your busy day. And then see if you can read the times on the clocks on the activity. So have fun telling the time to o'clock, everybody.